Hey, welcome to another edition of The Sales Life. And bro, today what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about shortcutting. Oh yes. And I didn't get this, man, until I was actually, one day I was outside just trying to knock out a run. There's a circle that goes around my house. And I realized because I dip the corners, man, when I tighten the corners, I don't round the corners, I shortcut them. And once I was coming around those corners, man, I realized that it was taking me more steps to finish the same run. And at first it just seems like extra steps, but added up over time, that equals more miles. Compounded, oh, it's a long journey, extra steps that it takes for me to be successful. So let's roll out with today's video. Many times when I run, I love to get out there on the open road. And part of it is just to get away from it all, but also I like to get myself stuck, so I got to force myself back home. But sometimes, man, I'm pressed for time, or I really just don't feel like getting a run in. So right around my house, man, is a big old circle. And I guess it's almost regulation track size, because 4 laps equals a mile. And many times, man, when I get out there, I start to run, and instead of staying on the path that I was on, when I get to the corners, man, I tend to cut corners. I tend to round off the corners, so it looks like I'm getting around faster. Only after that 8 laps, it should have been 2 miles, but after 8 laps, when I get around there, my watch isn't beeping. It's not saying 2 miles. I have to go another 100 feet or so to finish those 2 miles because I cut corners. And, you know, in a 2-mile run, one day, it doesn't seem like much. But when you take that extra 100 feet and you compound that over 52 days, it's an extra mile I had to run for the same run that I was on. And I think we tend to do that, man. We tend to do that, but because the run that we're on it's long, it's hard, it's hot, we're sore, we're tired. It's a tough month. So we tend to, and we fool ourselves, we tend to run the course and we say, hey, I'm on the right path. Yes, you're on the right path, but what you're doing is you're taking the wrong steps and you're adding miles to your success when you don't have to. You got to run the mile you're in, man. So you're doing that with your customers. You're doing that with your students. You're doing that with your own life. Is you're rounding corners, you're cutting the corners, and you're adding more miles to this long run that you're on. When I'm on that run and I feel like cutting the corners, I say square the circle, don't circle the square. See, the path around my house is a circle, but the parameter is a square. And if I stay on that parameter, 8 laps is 2 miles. But if I get off track and I circle the square instead of square the circle, if I circle the square, I cut the corners, that same 2 miles ends up costing me extra steps when I didn't have to, all because I shortcutted. Square the circle today. When you're on that run and you feel like, man, I don't feel like doing this, I'm just going to round this thing off. Don't. Square the circle. Don't circle the square. And you'll finish the run in fewer steps. Have an amazing day. Stay in the sales life.